Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we are reviewing the last generation of Civic Si to rev to over 8,000 RPM. This is a 2007 FA5 generation Civic Si sedan, and you can pick these up in decent condition nowadays for $6,000 to $8,000. The owner, Brian, picked this one up for $4,000 in pretty much bone stock condition. It had 210,000 miles on it at the time. Now it has over 220, and he's done a few mods to increase the overall driving pleasure. F2 Type 2 coilovers, some 17-inch work wheels, on Continental Sport 02 tires, 225s all around, some upgraded Hasport 62A polyurethane engine mounts. The rear mount is stock just to keep vibrations at bay, a K&N drop-in air filter, K-tuned lower control arms and ball joints with spacers, SPC rear camber arms, and some upgraded Acuity bushings for the 6-speed manual transmission. Brian also removed the front sway bar and added a Progress rear sway bar. From outside, this just looks like any old Honda Civic from 20 years ago. It's really not anything all that spicy. It's got a rear trunk spoiler, some side skirts, and a different front bumper. But to the untrained eye, this is just an old Honda Civic. The real fun lies in the chassis tuning and, of course, that K20 engine. This has the K20 Z3. It's a 2-liter naturally aspirated inline 4-cylinder engine with VTEC, and it revs to 8,300 RPM. It makes 197 horsepower, 139 pound-feet of torque. That torque figure is especially low, especially for the weight of this car, which comes in at a little over 2,900 pounds. The sedan is about 60 pounds heavier than the coupe, but technically it does have slightly better weight distribution at 60% in the front, 40% in the rear versus 61-39. We have a helical front LSD, strut front and multi-link rear suspension. Now the interior ergonomics and design have some pros and cons for me. The pro is that I really like this screen right here. You have your main tach and side gauges here, but you have this second element closer to the windshield that almost serves as a kind of head-up display. Very simple dash, physical controls for HVAC, and this has an aftermarket head unit. Everything is dead simple in the interior. We do have some cheap plastics and cloth seats, but actually these seats are not too bad. They're comfortable, and while not Type R seats, they do provide a reasonable amount of bolstering. The steering wheel tilts and telescopes, and I do feel like I'm sitting low enough in the car compared to the prior generation EP3, where I felt like I was sitting way too high up. Now, what I don't like about the ergonomics of this interior is that this has really thick A-pillars, and they actually do impede my visibility sometimes. And Honda also added this vertical pillar here to improve the chassis rigidity even further, but it just adds yet another layer of blocked visibility. Let's just focus on how this car drives. Might this actually be more fun than the modern Civic Si generations with their little 1.5 liter turbocharged engines? Nothing in terms of drive modes. We just have a VSA button. Push once to turn it off. There's the VTEC. We've got some stainless steel brake lines and upgraded fluid, but we're on the stock pads, so the brake pedal is a little bit soft. What a little engine. It's so gutless down low and even in the mid-range, so you really got to keep it above 5,000 RPMs at all times. Manual is really nice and slick, not super mechanical. It's definitely no S2000 shifter, but it is quite easy to use. Alright, the suspension not quite dialed, bouncing quite a bit at that rear end over the bumps. Brian mentioned that the previous owner said he put a lightweight flywheel into this thing, but there's still a little bit of rev hang, something that this generation was kind of known for, unfortunately. Although the throttle response on the blip is very good, when you lift off, there's definitely a bit of hang. The suspension feels underdamped. There's a lot of extra oscillation. Let's see about this engine here. Let's take it out all the way to 8,300. Shouldn't speed shift this thing because of that rev hang, at least in the first to second gear shift. This engine is such a little screamer, but you really got to keep it in the upper third of the rev range. There's so little torque down low. Is light, and I wish it had a bit more feedback. The load up behavior mid-corner, not exactly the best. It just kind of remains the same weight. But to this car's credit, it does feel light at right around 2,900 pounds, and that combined with this manual transmission and this high revving engine, it's still a very enjoyable driving experience. It puts the power down well with a helical LSD. Granted, it doesn't have a whole lot of torque being sent to those front wheels, but there's only a small amount of torque steer here. Some body roll here. The owner removed the front sway bar to increase front grip relative to rear, and added an aftermarket rear sway bar to make this thing turn better. There is a little bit of rub, I think, coming from the back under hard cornering. The steering had better feedback. You'd think an older car like this would have good steering feel. That's not quite the case here, although granted the S2000 was from this era and also didn't have great steering feel. Oh yeah, the suspension could use some work. These coilovers are not the best in terms of damping. But fun little car regardless. You can just toss it around, and for the price, I mean, $6,000 to $8,000, it's hard to argue with. There's the limiter. Oh yeah, this car's moving around. The faster you go over bumps, the more unsettled it feels. It's so hard to complain for the price. I mean, what car can you buy nowadays from the last 20 years, meaning it's relatively modern, you can still daily drive it, that is this much fun to drive? High revving, naturally aspirated engine, a nice rigid chassis that's not super bloated in terms of the weight and size, a slick 6-speed, a limited slip differential as standard. I don't think there's a whole lot of options that fit the bill. And I think objectively speaking, compared to an EP3 Civic Si, this is so much more exciting because the seating position's way better, the engine's way more exciting, the EP3's engine barely revved to 6,500. This might just be the best value Civic Si if you still want a proper engine. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments. What cars in the $6,000 to $8,000 range offer even more miles per gallon while also being a good daily driver? A big shout out to Brian. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.